We're live. I didn't even do my 2 and my 1, but it's okay. Look, we are live. We're back. Happy New Year's. It's Coffee, Crepes, Leadership, and Pancakes. I got my brothers with me. Mine is Joe. Shout out to Joe doing this thing, man. We love you. We got Matt and we got Phil. What's going on, fellas?
Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Were you just called Phil Phyllis?
Did I call you Phyllis?
No, you said fellas, but it sounded an awful lot like Phyllis, and I find that rather hilarious. That is my mother's name.
Now look,
close enough.
Phil, I'm assuming you've never been called Phyllis before.
No, this would be a first.
See,
thanks, Matt.
Unlike me, they
Do
call
what I can,
my house
buddy.
looking for Miss Gifford because they always get the I and the T mixed up. And they'd be like, yeah, we're trying to get in touch with Marie Gifford. I'm like, the funny thing is my wife's middle name is Marie, so I'm like, are you
That's awesome.
Are you looking for Angelica Marie or are you looking for Marte? And then they're like, oh, it's a T. I was like, yeah, that's a T, man. Come on. So
Identity crisis.
Identity crisis indeed. What's going on, fellas? How was y'all's, New Year's? Everything Christmas, New Year's, because we had that break off. So this is the first show of the year, 2023. And oh, by the way, national champions. Woo, woo, woo. Spank them boys, man. Look, I always want a good game, right? I always want a good game. But after Ohio State scared us, I was like, no. Spank these dudes and get the game over with. And they did exactly that. So, shout out to the dogs. Go Georgia. Shout out to my alumni, Liberty University. It's crazy, right? I learned that you don't get alumni discounts when you start school back up in the same school. I'm like, it's like you got to either do your student discount or your alumni discount. I'm like, well, which one's better?
Right.
School and discounts. Yes, those two, like military intelligence sometimes.
It's oxymoron, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man. So how was your holidays? What y'all do? What y'all travel? Get the day on, day off. Did you do half days? How did that work out for you guys?
I had a stunningly boring Christmas, which was amazing.
That's good.
I took a whole week off, which actually it only equated to like 4 days of leave, but it was nothing happened for most of it, and then something horrible and awful happened there near the middle of it.
No.
Which we unfortunately we lost a soldier. One of my NCOs. So
not a 22, was it?
Say again?
Not one of those 22 a day, was it?
No, complications from surgery is what they tell us. But Staff Sergeant Tina Salas, unfortunately, she was a shining light in our formation, and we are struggling to carry on that light in her absence.
Yeah, man. Well, prayers go out to her family, man. That's in the unit, because people don't realize when stuff like that happens, it doesn't just affect the families; it affects everyone that was close to her and worked with her. People realize in the military, you probably spend the bulk of your week with your battle buddies. Right?
Absolutely true.
You are at work before the sun comes up. Remember the old commercial? We do more by 5 o'clock before most of the people do all day. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So shout out to her family. Prayers go out for them and you guys, man. I know it's rough. But it was good you had outside of those events, nice, boring week. What about
boring
you? Boring
can be relaxing.
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. No, mine was good. We stayed home for most of it and then did a quick trip up to Kentucky and Ohio, see some family, and back down. Everybody did pretty good until we started to go back to work, and then everybody got sick. So that was, a good way to start back.
Yep.
The vacation was good. It was nice. Some time, that's some family time. So it was good.
Oh man. Well, mine was, it was quiet, and as Matt would say, it was a good boring. It was
Mm-hmm.
like the kids, my daughter and my grandson went to Texas to hang out with to spend time with his family, my grandson's father's side, and we didn't do anything. I mean, we did stuff locally, but it was just like the nonprofit that I work with, they were closed.
Wow.
It was awesome. Yeah. So, getting into today's article, first one of the year. I try to make sure that I'm labeling them because I went back to go try to point somebody to a specific article, and I realized that the articles were all labeled. The shows were all called Coffee, Crepes, Leadership, and Pancakes. It doesn't say how to deal with XYZ. So if you want to go in and find it, you couldn't find it. So my goal is to go in and relabel them and update like the icons and all that great stuff. Just make it a little bit better. So today is dealing with career transitions, right? You can find this article in the Harvard Business Review, and it's called "Overcoming Self-Doubt in the Face of a Big Promotion" by Evelyn Sue and Sabina Nawas. Again, you can find this in the Harvard Business Review, and it's under career transitions. So we're gonna jump into this thing, man. Have you ever worked hard for a promotion but then hesitated on the threshold of assuming a larger role? I say yes, I have. Like, man, I could do that better than that person, and they'd be like, "Hey, we need you to do this," and it's like, whoa.
Uh-huh.
I was just
But what I meant to say was, I would like to shadow them.
That's right. Let me
maybe
shadow
provide
them.
Advice.
Let me sit down. Let me sit down and see what they do. Don't just say you can do it better, unless you just absolutely know you can. Some people are like that, right? We often question our competence on the eve of significant job transitions that require new skills. Our success places us on the radar for these new positions, but now that we are faced with the possibility, self-doubt begins to creep in. It tamps down our enthusiasm to stretch ourselves and cramps our career aspirations. As we diminish our own agency, we risk withdrawing from the new role before fully taking it on. By the time we're ready to step into bigger shoes at work, we're used to being at the top of our game. After all, it's often one of the prerequisites for being considered for more responsibility. True. Talent managing, right? Our string of success ties us to a desire to take on challenges we know how to handle. Job transitions come with uncharted ground. Our fear of failure makes us hesitant to embrace the opportunity. We're going to drop a pin and spin our wheels right here. Matt, you want to hit us up first?
Well, one thing you mentioned is talent management, and something that we have to do regularly is assess that talent management in our people. It's not just hey, I saw you were good at this, and now this is how I identify you. It's not hey, I saw you were not good at anything, so I'm not going to put you in charge of anything either. We have to base it off of the potential of a person, and their abilities currently obviously play a role in that, but their abilities that you can see developing as their leader. And as junior leaders, we might not be so good at that because we want people who can do now.
Right.
As senior leaders, we get a little bit better at that because we've seen people grow over time. We've seen the way things go. Hey, you know what? I've heard 50 people say exactly what you were telling me right now. And every one of them has gone on to do this next thing at least well enough to call it a success.
Right.
It might not have been the best of the best, but you're on that glide path to success. And encouraging people to do that, encouraging people that they can't let their fear be a stopping point. Fear isn't a bad thing. Honestly, fear is what has gotten us to 2023, right? Fear is something that allows us to recognize what is dangerous, what we're uncomfortable with, and hopefully, if we can get past it, to plan forward, to say, this is something I might not be good at. This is something I'm afraid of.
Right.
What can I do to mitigate that? What can I do to learn? What can I do to better myself so that I can succeed at that? So when you feel that fear, don't let that be the stopping point. Let that be the point you sit down and start making a list.
Yeah. Yes. What you got, Phil?
Um, the line about untrodden ground. I think the more you're around, the longer you're around, the more leadership positions you've been in, you start to become aware of what you don't know about a job before you take it. And that untrodden ground, you already know that you don't know a lot of that stuff.
Right.
And that can be daunting. Hey, I know I could do this job, but I don't know how to do half of it because I've never done it before. But then even more experienced leaders, because they know that they don't know stuff, can really kind of hold themselves back from what Matt was saying, fear.
Yeah, that's good. And I really like the fact that I believe that good leaders recognize their fear and embrace the fear, right? It's not it's not one of those things where it's like you got to tell somebody, oh no, you're not supposed to be afraid, or like in past typical societies, men don't show fear or can't be fearful, right? No, we're afraid. That's why we are able to come up with inventions that help us get past the fear. We come up with things like, hey, I'm afraid to walk over there and get this food because there's a huge whatever. Well, how about we invent something that'll protect us, or that makes this hunting thing better, so that the fear level goes down, because the fear, the knowledge of something that is dangerous causes a fear that something might happen to me. And knowing that something might happen to me makes me become innovative. I still got to get this bread. I still got to eat. I still got to take care of my family. So I'm going to move forward. The problem comes when you have those people who are like what's happening in this article. They hit that wall and be like, oh, that's it. Guess that's all. That's all, folks. So, yeah, man, I love that y'all pointing that out. So, for instance, when Evelyn was an associate professor holding a medical director position at the University of Washington in Seattle Children's Hospital, she had dreams of changing the world by changing the paradigm of success in academic medicine and ultimately improving the lives of patients by improving the lives of providers. This is awesome in the medical field to hear people talk about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the providers, and the people that work there, they're not thought about, outside of you need to get me taken care of, right? This is awesome that she's thinking about this. The invitation to interview for the full-time position of division chief was the gateway to realizing her wishes. But she was plagued with fear of not being ready, disappointing others, provoking public criticisms, and drowning under the burden of others' expectations and judgment. Short pause. Man, how many times have this hit you guys where you're being hit with disappointing others, all these things that come under there are different types of fear, right? All the time, right? Oh, absolutely. What are they going to think about me? Look, when I got promoted to E7, I got promoted en route. I was selected for drill sergeant, ended up becoming an AIT platoon sergeant, went to school, and when I get there, I find out that I'm going to be the senior. I'm the youngest sergeant first class there. I'm going to be the senior of all of these others on the trail. Now, on top of that, they're like, hey, you're going to compete for platoon sergeant of the year. And I'm like, I just got here. They're like, it's okay, you know this stuff. We looked at your record. I'm like, yeah, but that's geared towards other stuff. This is platoon sergeant, drill sergeant of the year. I have literally not even held a class yet, right? So I was worried, what are my peers gonna say? They're gonna think that I got kissed up to somebody. I was all up in the first sergeant or the commander's, brown nosing to get this position. And it bothered me frankly, I was like, no, it's people who are more qualified. And they're like, no, but we've seen you work with everybody. We've seen how you deal with everybody. We've seen all these different things. You are the person for the job. And when I got the job, it was the total opposite. I mean, there may have been a few haters, right? But the bulk of the people who I thought like, they would feel a certain way, they were like, nah, you were the person for the job, man. You good. So you could literally catastrophize and talk yourself out of something instead of, as we're gonna see later, small steps into it, right?
Absolutely true.
Yeah, man. Every day. You guys want to hit on that a little bit? I know I was rambling.
No, that's all right. A quick quote from Seneca, well-known Stoic. Not quite as well-known as Marcus Aurelius, but if you read more from Marcus Aurelius, you'll get quite a bit from Seneca. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. The fear of what's going to happen hits us harder than what actually happens most of the time. And the other thing, that last line there, drowning under the burden of others' expectations and judgment. Nobody judged her, right? Nobody judged you. Right. Nobody had expectations that were anything other than there's going to be a person in that job. And most of the time, that's the case. There will be a few who are going to rely on you, right? Like whoever it is that you're battle buddied with, whoever it is that is your direct supervisor, and the people that are direct reports to you, they have some expectations, but it's not like they spend their entire day writing out a graph and a chart of, well, they didn't bring donuts today, so that's a point off, and they talked a little bit too long in the meeting, so and they didn't mention me by name when they walked by, and none of that happens.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one for me. We suffer more in imagination than in reality, and my imagination is very creative sometimes along those lines.
Yes.
I just have to remember that that's literally all in my head.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you guys this while you just mentioned that, Matt. Have you ever, and I may have shared this with you guys, but have you ever, I'll use an example, me, get a text message and in your head, you've sent that message back, or you've had this conversation with someone, and it was like you did it, but the person comes like, "Hey, man, you didn't never hit me back about whatever," and you like, "No, we had a whole conversation, man. What are you talking about?" But
yes,
yes, okay.
There's another thing that leads into that as well, and that's why procrastination kills us so hard. I'll have to share that article with you guys. We think and we plan and we talk about things, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it is literally the same parts of our brains activated in planning and talking about things, in bragging about what we're going to do, that's activated when we do it. So we can sit there and talk about doing something for 2 hours and use the energy, mental, emotional energy that we were going to use to do that, be too exhausted to end up doing it and not do it. And to the flip side of that one, talk about it so much that we convince ourselves that it's been done.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad I'm not the only person that has done that.
Definitely not.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna hit them up and we're gonna talk on this, and then in my head I did it. No bueno. Okay, so she approached Sabina for help. In his book Think Again, Adam writes that it's important to detach in two ways when we need to rethink our incorrect opinions. We must detach our present from our past and our opinion from our identity. Sabina encouraged her to dump out all her doubts, to discharge her emotions and counterproductive assumptions. This helped them work through the surprising demotivation she experienced rather than the excitement they had both anticipated. That helped them work through the surprising demotivation she experienced rather than the excitement they had both anticipated. How exciting it is going to be when I get promoted or I can get in this position, and then they get nominated for it, and then she becomes like the total opposite of what she thought it was going to be. Sounds familiar. Over the course of the next several coaching sessions, they uncovered 4 demons, all of which are prevalent among successful professionals facing their next big career step. And these strategies could use the strategies they could use to defeat them. The first one is I need to please everyone. So these are the 4 demons. Okay, I need to please everyone. What was that one article we went over? It was
Oh,
something
we've
about
done-
yes man or something like that.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
Yeah, well, it's when the employer has to please. I mean, is a people pleaser.
Yep.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one. Number one, first demon is I need to please everyone. She was overwhelmed because she felt the weight of new responsibility would be crushing. She would need to respond to greater pressures and submit to everyone's expectation in her new role. Her mindset was stuck in victim mode. She thought she wouldn't be able to say no when others expected something of her or stop working when even one email remained that needed a response.
I know
I
the
got?
senior most leaders that still do that today, you know. Sir, ma'am, it is 2000. I just swung back by the office after having dinner with the family and saw you're still here. Why?
Yeah.
Oh, I still have emails. Okay. Well, you're not going to be able to do your job tomorrow if you keep trying to do everybody else's job today.
That's right. What is that? How do we facilitate that? And how do we get rid of that?
Expectations,
It was
boundaries.
a culture. It was a culture, right? That culture was built
sure was.
in. And it's still, I mean, obviously you could drive by and see people. And when you have a CEO, you know, of a large garrison who has to initiate standard procedures of getting out of the office by a certain time, and them and their senior enlisted advisor are gonna drive around the post to look and see who's in the parked in the drive. I mean, that's it's ridiculous, right? Now there are times and there are exceptions, but make that the exception and not the rule.
Yeah.
Right? We gotta change that.
Yep.
It's an easy trap to fall into. You know, most people want to make their boss happy. I mean, good evaluations are good, right?
Right.
But I think, at least in military culture, in our culture, we want to take care of our subordinates too, and we can wrap ourselves up in trying to make sure, maybe not please them, it's maybe not the right word, but make sure they're taken care of, make sure all their needs are met, and then it becomes a trap of like, oh well, you know, I spent my whole day trying to take care of this, and so I put off my other work. Now I have to take care of my boss's stuff, and it's just like this easy trap to fall into, trying to take care of everybody else.
Right. Yeah, man, that's easy trap, like you said, Phil. And I really hope that we get more leaders who are conscious of it and intentional about changing that, reversing it. It's for you leaders, and for everybody that's just joining us, thank y'all for coming out to Coffee, Crepes, Leadership, and Pancakes. Drop a note in the chat box. Tell us where you're watching from. And you got any questions, you can also drop them there. We're talking about overcoming self-doubt in the face of a new promotion, pretty much. All right? It's under career progression. So Sabina asked her to create a should versus want list, identifying everything she thought she should do, and corresponding items identifying what she wanted to do. This list helped them clarify her own mandates rather than bending to the will of others' motivations or shoulds. We give ourselves permission to switch from someone at the mercy of others' expectation, the victim, to the person at the helm of their choices, the owner. Her list helped her pinpoint ways to succeed on her own terms. I like that. So the list
that leads in. That's exactly what Phil was saying about prioritization, right?
Right.
You got to prioritize what needs to be done, what the boss wants to be done, what you know the people need to have done, and what you want done.
Right.
If you don't throw that last one in there, you're going to burn out quick because you don't see yourself in the work.
That's right. And I would go a step further and say that it's not that you don't see yourself, but you don't put yourself.
Yeah.
Which means that you have intentionally left yourself out. And if you're not working with that in mind, I mean, it's you're a victim. You are a rapidly approaching victim of burnout. It's gonna happen. All right, so the second demon is my vision needs to be ready, made, and perfect. I don't know. Yeah, my vision needs to be ready, made, and perfect. You know, one of the things that I appreciate about our group, you know, Matt, you started a leaders group and invited like a lot of different leaders to come out and join to have iron sharpening iron. And one of the things that we do inside of this group is bounce information off of each other, right? This is what I'm doing. This is what I plan on doing. What do you guys think? And it's like you're being transparent. You're being an open book, and you're asking for honest assessment. And that is so good. It don't have to be perfect. We're going to build this, as we said, we're going to build this plane mid-flight. But we're not just going to be like, we building it my way. No, it's mid-flight. That means two things can happen. We can keep it floating, flying, or it's going to crash down, right? So if you don't get the help of those who are experts in that field, it's going to crash. But if you get help from people around you, you keep that thing up in thoughts. My thoughts. All right. So she assumed the vision she proposed for her department needed to be perfect right out the gate, and a concise, relatable, and actionable soundbite with wide appeal to all stakeholders. That's not gonna happen all the time. She didn't want to expose any flaws or tax others with multiple iterations. A full-time position was a big deal to her, but her constituents' time was short and expectations were high. Creating a vision is not a solo venture, nor is it a linear or clear from inception. Perfection shackles us to preconceived notions of what good work looks like and paralyzes progress. Yes. To fix this, she needed to begin with an idea or two, garner input from others, shape the vision, talk some more, reshape it, and continue molding it through multiple iterations. It led to a year of creating and revising the vision, rather than feeling as though she had to share it immediately. It then functioned as a litmus test for tough decisions. For example, how to handle a team member's family crisis or resolve conflicts between team members. No matter how smart we are, how quickly we work, when we invite others to create with us, our ideas will be better for having diverse input and more likely to be embraced. What you got on this, Phil?
Sorry, hit the wrong button. I think I've fallen into this little trap before. You know, you're trying to run an event or something, some kind of training or medic competition or something like that, and you want everything to be set and flawless. You might have like, you know, your co-leader that you're working with on it, but you sit there and you plan and you plan and you plan, and you're like, okay, this is gonna be perfect. And then you start bringing other people in, and they're like, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? What about this? You need to change that. You're not allowed to do that. If you don't, it's just better to bring those people in early and build the whole team from the start, you know? And not let yourself get beat down by having to make changes. You know, having a good vision to start is great, but you need to be able to allow that to progress, to grow and change. You know, everybody's an expert in some form or fashion, but when you're trying to lead a big team, got to have input.
That's right. What you got, Matt?
Absolutely. That's a very good point, Phil. And that brings about something I wasn't going to say, but actually is it hits home with me. Planning events, competitions, things that you want other people to be a part of, things that you want to be the best for your people, whoever that might be. I used to be really shy about bringing other people in because this is my project, and asking for help is 90% of the time gonna get you help, right? And that's great, but how much help? Because sometimes you bring in the people who, well, you let me get my foot in the door, so now this is mine.
Right.
And I had too many experiences with that when I was younger. Oh, you're asking for help, so what you're saying is you need me to take this over.
Right.
And it it really it made me gun shy of asking for help for a while, because no, this is my baby, this is my thing that I'm working on, my project. I've got my people, I've got my plan, I've got my way forward. I don't need anybody else coming in here and saying, well, now it's mine, hand me that leg, right? We'll be like Solomon, hand me half the baby and then nobody gets the baby, right? I don't want that. So it took me a long time, really, to build up my confidence and say, this is the project as it stands. Let's see if we have to change it. And if we have to change it, it's still our project, right? If it has to change from what it is over here to end up being what it is over here, and it's successful for everybody, that's okay. But I did my note in there, don't let less than perfect attempts erode your confidence. I say that because that's something that happened to me pretty significantly, and I will not forget the couple of times that happened. If that does happen, if you do erode your confidence, just remember, just because someone else comes in and takes over doesn't mean you failed. It means they failed to share the spotlight. It means they failed as whatever mentor or developer they are, to allow it to still be yours.
Right.
And that's something we have to temper ourselves in when we say, hey, we have senior leaders that are too invasive, right? They come in and they're too overbearing. I have to make sure that I'm not overbearing. Hey guys, I've made this mistake in the past. Let's make sure that we don't do this, and this. And I'm looking around the room going, and I've lost you because you think I'm taking over. Right. What do you guys need help with? Right. And it's shifting that gear and realizing I don't want to be the person shooting you the way that I was shot when I was your age.
That's good. We got Jelly Beans in the house, the Jewel Junkie. She says, happy Saturday, bosses. What's going on, Jewel Junkie?
Happy Saturday.
She says, trusting is essential but difficult at times. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So remember we went over an article called "Don't Allow for Perfection to Hinder Progression."
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's great articles. I love the fact that a lot of these will lead you back to the others. It's good. That means keep reading, people. Reading is fundamental. And it begins it becomes, I want to say fun, because I'm still don't like, I can't read a lot of stuff. That's why these articles are great, because they're short. And right before I lose my attention span, just totally spazzes, it's over. And I can go back over, because, I'm honestly, like, right before I finish my master's degree, confessions, man, I literally I would be reading, and sometimes the words would start doing this. I would be reading, and I'm like, let's say if it said fear frequently greets us on the threshold, I would see fear greets us frequently threshold, and it's just like, whoa, that doesn't even make sense. And I'll go back and I'll read it a couple times, and then them jokers will go back to where they're supposed to be, and I'm like, so what I found was, help me out, I would have to get the audio version and follow along with the visual, so I'm hearing it as I'm seeing it, so that even if my vision starts doing that whole deal, it's the audio is telling me what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so these type of articles are good because I don't go through 4 or 5 pages and I really didn't capture anything.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, and I'm not being tested at the end. We're just talking about it, and if I miss something, you gentlemen are gonna make sure that I'm right. No, you're far wrong, buddy. That's not what this article was about.
Actually.
That's another beauty of our group. It's like, hey, we love you, but you're wrong. It's like, oh, my bad, fellas. All right, so the third demon is I am not safe. I am not safe. So fear frequently greets us on the threshold of a new opportunity. New rules and expectations, an unknown future, and ambiguous goals all jar our sense of safety. Our past challenges resurface, and we project them onto a gloomy prediction for the future. I grew up the child of immigrants. One of them grew up as a child of immigrants in a small town in Wisconsin, and they're well versed in being singled out as different. They had to learn maladaptive survival and self-protection skills, playing small, not standing out, going out of my way to please others, assuming the mantle of division chiefs involve making hard decisions that will inevitably disappoint at least some. It's always people. If you're in a leadership position, you gotta understand you're gonna make decisions. Even if you include people in the process, you still got to make a decision, because people in that group, they're not all going to agree. That's why you have a jury. That's how you have hung juries, right? You're going to make a decision that's not going to sit with somebody, and it's okay. As long as you made them a part of the process and you know that you gave them the opportunity to give you input. If you're the leader, guess what? It's your job to take the hard part of taking all of that information and saying, okay, this is what I feel is the best route forward for the collective organization. All right. So,
and pertinent to leadership, if I may.
Go ahead. No, come on.
As senior leader advisors, as we all are, non-commissioned, commissioned, it doesn't matter. We all are advisors to that next level up, right? And levels down.
That's right.
We have to make sure that we keep our pride safely stowed away in our back pocket, because while we may have very good ideas and very good guidance for people, if they don't take it and that is not the ultimate decision that they go with, if it's not our decision, it's not our decision.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Advisor.
Too many people wrap their heads around the, well, I'm the senior enlisted. Well, no, that's good. That's wonderful for you. However,
that's right.
Sorry.
That final piece of that title.
Same thing with junior commanders. Well, I'm a commander. Yeah, well, guess what? So is your boss.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're the subordinate commander. You're the junior commander. There's levels to this thing. So absolutely, that is a great point. Pride comes before a fall a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are like, well, if pride is so bad, then why is it okay to have pride in something in your organization? That's a different kind of pride.
Yep. Absolutely.
We're not talking about being proud and, feeling that connection to your organization. We're talking about exalting yourself so much so that you can't see that you're in your way and your organization's way. All right. Where am I? Assuming that mantle division, people won't like my decisions. They won't like me. If I am not liked, I am not safe. I gotta say that again. This triggered an auto response in me. People won't like my decisions and they won't like me. If I am not liked, I am not safe. Matt, you got a good point right here. You want to hit on that?
Yes, absolutely. And we've all heard this from different perspectives throughout our career, but we say it's your job to lead, not to be liked. But this is a difficult concept to get through our heads when we're taught all our lives to get along with people and to be nice. It hits us differently as juniors too when you hear, well, I'm not here to make friends. Oh, okay, well, because that's a big part of what high school and college and all of these groups that we join, we have to learn how to get along with folks. And now the person that's my boss is telling me they don't care if I like them or not. Well, that's half my skills that we're taught.
That's right.
Right? That's getting along with people, getting to a consensus. And now you're telling me that doesn't matter at all. That's the wrong approach. That's the approach that we took for too long, in my personal opinion. Yeah. And then I'm right. But in my personal opinion, that's not the best approach to take. You can't base your entire leadership style around being liked, right? That's the leadership versus likership. Right. I'm going to do something here that's not necessarily the best for the unit, the organization, the mission, the people, because the people that say they're not going to like me if I don't do that are affecting me. That's ineffective. You can't do that. Right. You can't base the right decision on whether or not people are going to think you're the best thing since sliced bread. But you can't just completely ignore the fact that we have to have interpersonal relationships to make things work.
That's right. Well, I like that. One of the things that you pointed out is if you did work on those skills which was so awesome about growing up in that era. I mean, there was a bully here and there, but if you grew up in the era of PE recess, you know, you wanting to be at school, like you wanted to go to school because all your friends were there, especially if you lived in like a rural area and your closest neighbor was 2 or 3 miles down the block, right? You had to, if you ran and played in the woods, you didn't meet strangers. Because a bunch of kids got together and y'all went down to the sand lot. Y'all came up with a game. If you didn't have baseball and bat and mitts, you came up with kickball, stickball. You came up with, you stand on that wall and I'm going to throw this rock or ball at you. If I hit you, then you out. But you came up with all these different things and you built those skills. And then when you get into a situation in your working environment, now that you have better coping skills, in my opinion. Because tell me if I'm wrong, but some of the people that I had the biggest issues with became some of my closest friends. Like people that I fought growing up ended up being like really good friends of mine. It's like we might fight once a quarter. We're gonna throw these hands. I said Transformers, He-Man, Transformers, He-Man. All right, let's get it. Like what's the best, stupid stuff that you fight about. G.I. Joe, whatever, I don't know. But you had those issues, you worked your way through those issues. Whether you move furniture or whatever it is you did. But you work through them. So when you get into difficult situations in this day and age, in your working age, you're able to say, you know what? Hey, when I came in, they did still go to the wood line. Let's take off our tops and we're going to go and talk in the back. But, you could still have that hard conversation and be like, you know what, you can filter through the drama and say they actually had good points on this and I can respect that. I might not like the tone that you use or whatever, but you had your substance is there. And so not that you're trying to be friends, but you can make a better situation out of something that's probably not that great, right? Which would probably be why you're in that leadership position that you're in.
I'm going to step on Phil here because I know you have something to say, but what we did, and I think in the right way, is we coded that friendship and that relationship with those soft words with dignity and respect, right? And while we need to be better in the Army specifically, I know, and we are getting there with our soft skills, also corporate world, right? You need to get better at those soft skills, being able to talk to people, being able to relate to people and understand that people's opinions do in fact matter. The way they see the world is the way they see the world. And you can change that. You can impact that. You can affect that. You don't have to just say, shut up and do it because I said so, or here's policy number 3B-2, do it. You can be human. But covering that up, like I said, coding that with the basics, the very least you can do is treating people with dignity and respect. I think honestly that was the right approach from way over there. I don't like you, I'm going to take you out back and hit you until we get along, to sort of middle ground of, at very least, I'm going to listen to what it is that you're going to say, and then we're going to have a conversation. We don't have to be besties, right? We don't have to go out for drinks every night, and I don't have to know every single nuance of what you think and feel in your history, right. But at least we're right here, right now.
Absolutely. What you got, Phil?
I didn't really have much. I guess I didn't really relate with the author as much on this one. I'm not somebody that really cares about being liked. I think she's using the word being liked as what I interpret as like being viewed as competent, being respected. Yeah. And that, I think, and that's more what I took away for it. It kind of bleeds into the next paragraph we haven't gotten to yet. But, Matt can probably speak to this a little bit. Being liked isn't something that was part of my leadership, but I wanted to be seen as thanks, Matt. But I wanted to be seen as caring about my subordinates. I wanted to be seen as competent by my subordinates and leaders. And I think and respect, mutual respect for everybody. And I think maybe that's what she's getting at. Maybe that's what others are getting at here, but just using the word liked is kind of a catch-all.
I believe that, and I like you put your way you put that, Phil. I believe that as senior leaders, we may have put too much stress on that as well. When we say, it's not when we take our young soldiers when they're fresh, like, it's not your job to be liked. You're not friends anymore. This line you just crossed over into the backbone of the army. When the talk that you have with them, right? You trying to pump them up, get them ready. You understand that this is going to be hard, especially when you're in jobs like mine where they can't separate you and put you in another squad or platoon. You got promoted outside of that group and put in charge of that group, and that's hard. That's really, really hard. And so, I really tried to have that conversation with a lot of my juniors, and one of the topics was, you're not friends. It's not your job to be their friends at this point, because you're going to have to answer you're going to get credit for the good and the bad. And if you're trying to be friends, they're going to look at you and be like, yo, you got to fall on this one for me. And I'm going to tell you got to sit them down and counsel them. And if you making deals on both sides, you burning the match on both ends, it's going to go fast. So I think that we have to be more conscientious of how we explain that, to where it's not saying that you can no longer like these people or get along with or whatever, but try to paint the picture clear of your role changed. Separate that. You were here, now your role has changed and your responsibility has changed, which means that you have a different purpose and expectations from us, and your level of falling is farther, right? So if you work to get here, let's work to keep it. Right?
Exactly.
So it gets lonelier at the top. So that's, hey,
Truth.
It's one of those things, man. And I think the better we're able to train them for that, the better they're able to transition.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get this. While the specific example was related to her upbringing, we each battle fears that cast shadows larger than reality. True. Our fears arise from various needs, like wanting to be liked by others, some, never being wrong, or wanting to be seen as the smartest person in the room. I didn't suffer from that before, but as I transitioned to higher levels of education, for myself, I wanted to be. Because I didn't apply myself when I was in high school. It was all about girls, sports, and cars. And so, school was just a byproduct of those things that I was trying to get to. I gotta go here and, Anyways. All right, our fears arise from various needs, like wanting to be liked by others, never being wrong, or wanting to be seen as the smartest person in the room. To protect ourselves from these fears, we tend to hide and play small. I first decided to experiment outside work in safer surroundings. For example, I learned to stand taking up more physical space. As I grew in my presence, so did my confidence. This then led me to recognize which work items and skills needed more time to grow. I learned to play big, one small experiment at a time. In addition, over the course of a few meetings with Sabina, she learned that she was stuck in a single story about other people's intent and that others' interpretations were possible. Sure, a coworker could offer direct feedback, trying to manipulate her to their way of thinking, or they might be deeply invested in my success and realize that she didn't have all of the data, or that her approach had been tried unsuccessfully previously. By expanding the possible reasons for someone's behavior towards them, they liberate their minds from playing small and release them into a larger arena. You want to tackle this one first, Matt?
The being larger thing, the taking up more space thing. You don't see that in people who are diffident, people who don't care about something, people who are not good at something, people who are not the most competent, right? You see You see the people walk onto a stage, stand behind a podium, and clutch the sides of the podium. Phil, I see you smiling there because you remember me teaching MRT to all of BAMC. 350. These are my slides today. Right? Terrified. I can talk to anybody. I'm good with that. I can talk to small groups. I'm great. But you put me in front of a large group, and I went, and I closed off. It took a few times of me doing that horribly, to be honest. I know I saw the recording of myself. I was lucky enough to get that playback.
I don't watch recordings of myself for that reason.
You should and you shouldn't, but only if you have the ability to say, again, I'm going to put my pride away for this one to learn from it. I figure if high schoolers can do it, and pro footballers can do it, to learn from themselves. I can probably do it. It was hard though, but that confidence to be able to step out from behind that podium, to be able to walk up and down and talk to people, and not have that safety net, that thing where you're literally hiding yourself. And that's not the only place by any means. Being able to stand up in a meeting, being able to sit up in a meeting, being able to stand up in front of a formation, or even just walk up to someone that you don't know and you think this is going to be a difficult conversation, and have that conversation, or at very least present yourself to a place where you can have that. That doesn't happen by accident, right? And it doesn't happen by beating yourself up. I've heard too many times, I did terrible in that. I'm going to beat myself up about that for days. I've said it too many times. Well, this was awful and I got to work on this. Unless the next step you take is to figure out what you did wrong and work on that, all you're doing is eroding your confidence. Right. Well, I did terrible. Okay, great. You did terrible. How did you do terrible? What specific thing did you do terrible? And what can you do to make that better? And now let's practice making that better.
That's right.
That's exactly what we mean when we say, give our people, give our subordinates, wherever they are, wherever you are, the opportunity to fail. Make it okay to fail so that they can see what not good looks like from having done it.
That's right. And
then they can learn from it and get better. That is one of the reasons we have such trouble with our non-commissioned officers right now, starting first classes who won't teach class. Well, I don't know. Well, we'll give that to the juniors. Are you saying that because you want them to have a chance?
Yeah.
Or because you don't have the confidence in yourself and your own knowledge base to do it? Build yourself up. By showing them, they will see that it's okay to do it. Honestly, by admitting to your formation that you have failed, but you're still where you are, great. You give them a little bit of confidence to take the step. Well, I guess they weren't taken out back and shot, so maybe I can try it.
That's right. That's good, Matt. That's good. I like that. You got anything on this, Phil?
I think Matt covered everything that I thought of and even more on playing a big part. But the end of their statement here, by expanding the possible reasons for someone's behavior towards us, we liberate our minds from playing small and release them into a larger arena. I think that one was hard for me for a long time, because you have situations where you're coming into some place that you've got experienced people that have been there for a long time, and you've got your big grand new ideas, and you're like, I want to try this, and they're like, no. This is a terrible reason why. And it's easy to take that personally, if you think that they're trying to overshadow you or ignore you or demean you in some form or fashion. But if you take a step back and be like, oh wait, maybe they have more experience than I do, maybe they've had a job like this before,
right.
Reframing things. I mean, so you will have people that'll try to undercut you, sure, but most people are not like that. That's definitely the exception rather than the rule in my experience. But not thinking the worst of the people's intentions is really important when you're when you're feeling unsafe in a new job.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I appreciate you guys breaking that down, and we are in the final inning of this. So the last one is, I will be seen as lazy, selfish, and self-indulgent. This is the final demon that they would have to face, right? They had to face. Who I am to read a book for pleasure. Oh, who am I? See? I was just talking about that. Who am I to read a book for pleasure when patients need attention? Peers require responses and physicians crave coaching. High pressure jobs require time to distress and re-energize. Absolutely. Amen to that. High pressure jobs require time to de-stress and re-energize. The military is a high pressure job. Right?
Just a little bit.
And you get 30 days of leave every year.
Use it.
You need to use it.
Yeah.
If you got Matt or Phil knocking at your door, or you got Phil sending somebody to knock at your door, or Matt, because if Matt is knocking at your door, then that means somebody else has failed. To tell you to put in some leave, or you getting counseled because you hadn't use or lose, we need to pull everybody in. They need to toe the line. All right? It's high pressure. There's going to be times when you can't get out and do certain things. Plan it. Be intentional about vacationing. Even if it's 5 days a month. Right? Take your vacations, man. Right? You're already getting 4 and 3 days, 3 days and 4 days here and there, wherever in some of those units, right? Some units you're getting that time. That does not mean that you are okay to just lose the days that you're getting. All right. So I digress. But that doesn't mean you need to bring it to bed with you. Don't bring your work home, and definitely don't bring it to bed. C.Y. Wakeman once noted on the No Ego podcast that to avoid quitting our jobs, we would need to quit our jobs every night and every weekend. I say again, to avoid quitting our jobs, to avoid quitting, to avoid falling short, to avoid, because you quit mentally before you quit physically.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right? So, in the No Ego podcast, to avoid quitting our jobs, we would need to quit our jobs every night and every weekend. Before completing work each day, list one thing you must finish the next day and prioritize the rest of your tasks. Create a ritual that marks the end of your workday. Shut down your computer. Walk out of your office for the evening. Even if that means stepping over the threshold of your study and into your living room when you're working from home. Yes, block time a month or two in advance for self-care. Take your leave. Self-care, and communicate these mini breaks to your team. Even just take the day off for your birthday and tell others about it. Transparency with your colleagues allows them to slay their own demons. Because some people are looking at you. My mom used to say this, shout out to Linda G. My mom used to always tell me, and I thought it was the weirdest thing, you never know who's watching you. And I'm like, Mom, that is so weird. Yeah, who's watching me? And there was people watching me, but I didn't know this. And then going into the military, it's people watching you. As seniors, as peers, if someone thinks that whether they have a bad reason for why they're watching you or a good reason for why they're watching you, they're watching you to see how you move and how you maneuver. And if they think that, okay, this is how they got successful, they're there till 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They're gonna model themselves after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into a command position, and then you're gonna make it without, even if you don't say it, your body, your actions are going to say, this is the model of success. Being here with this unit, with this organization is more important than you being at home at your kids' graduation. And I mean graduation, usually you think in graduation high school. No, at the elementary, middle school, preschool, at those events, because creating memories is way more important than presents. You being present is more important. So you're in the military.
Absolutely.
You're going to be gone a lot. So while you're around and available, make sure that you're present. All right. So create that ritual. We cannot fulfill our dreams if our own fears and false expectation hold us back. Shining a spotlight on and naming our demons allows us to set the terms under which we do our best for ourselves, for our teams and organizations, and for those we serve. And I'm going to add, for those we love. All right. Yep. Matt, you want to close this out? What you got?
You said something at the beginning of this paragraph. It was like 15, 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Be intentional, right? Intentionally plan. Intentionality. Be deliberate, right? Be present. Be realistic. And that realistic, they've hit on it a lot in here. That realistic that I'm referring to is what is in your head versus what is in other people's head versus what is actually happening.
Right.
None of us, outside of some people who make a little bit of money in Vegas pretending to, are mind readers. Right? So whatever you think, whatever your biases are to think other people are thinking of you are probably not reality. And honestly, whatever expectations other people have in their own mind about the way things should go and what you should do probably aren't reality either. Reality is reality. Make a list when you've said, I've failed. When you've said, I didn't do that well. When you've said, well, I don't think I lived up to XYZ standards. Make a list. And I'm all about lists. 3x5 cards, right? I've got them. I've got the bigger version that my wife bought me for Christmas. I carry them everywhere. Write things down so you can talk about them later, so you can think about them later. But make that list of, did this really happen or did I just think this, right? Did this actually knock me down in other people's opinion of me? Did they say something to me about improving that? Or did I just imagine this because I stuttered over a word, right? But yeah, no, be deliberate. And then again, like you said, be present. Make sure that you're there. Make sure that you're there for the things that matter. And that last thing that we talked about, second to last thing we talked about there, was something we hit in one of the other articles, and that's shutting down, right? You have to shut down after work and on the weekends so you don't quit. It's that hard quit versus a soft quit. I can soft quit and have no repercussions. I come home, sure, I'll bring my work phone home. And sometimes I'll even bring my computer home in case I need it, right? But I'm not that always on anymore, always thinking work. When I answer a phone and they say, hey, tell me about this individual in this situation, you're going to have to give me a second. I'm going to have to spin back up that part of my brain. I might even have to look at notes because my brain is not going a million miles an hour for work, or it wouldn't even be going 5 miles an hour for the people at home. So that soft shut off, that is okay. Taking your vacation and saying, hey, I love going on cruises. Why? Well, because cruises are cool and they do go a lot of places, but mostly and most importantly, there's no cell service. I can take that time to plan for that hard shut off.
Yes.
So that when I come back, I can go, hey, now I got a couple more days. I'm going to spin back up into it. I'm going to get back into that soft shut off. Right? So when I hit work on Monday, bam, I'm there. And usually the Sunday before, I'm taking notes. I'm thinking of things I'm going to ask people on and off, right? While still being present for the family. You've got to take your time. Be deliberate about the way you do things. Plan for things. Be realistic with yourself.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Matt. What you got, Phil?
I don't really have much to add.
You hit a lot, right?
Yeah.
I talk too much.
This last block, the headline for it, I will be seen as lazy, selfish, and self-indulgent. I think, man, I fell into that. Maybe not self-indulgent, but lazy and selfish. It was like, oh man, I gotta bring my work computer home. I gotta check my email before I go to bed. I gotta have my cell phone on all the time in case somebody calls. And I did that for a while, and then I started to have a family, and I was like, 1700, bye. Turn off. Computer stays at work. And nothing happened. Nothing exploded. Nobody died.
That's right.
Maybe I had a couple more emails to answer the next morning, but oh well, I answered them and then I moved on. It's fine. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy because we're afraid of the perception from somebody else that doesn't exist about our work. So yeah, I like the ending of this article here. Prioritize, like you guys were saying, be deliberate.
Yes.
Take time off.
Well, look, hey, man. Thank you guys so much for always, being present on the sidelines in the background when we're preparing for these things. A lot of times people don't realize that we're not just jumping on randomly. We're planning and plotting and in the background, and we're prioritizing family time over, being, whether it's one person might be out or we're all gonna be out. And we really work together as a good unit, and I can appreciate that. And so, in saying that, we have a schedule, you guys. So the next show is going to be using advocacy and inquiry effectively. So if you need to be here anyway. Get your coffee, your crepes, and your pancakes, and get on out here for some leadership talk. You know what I'm saying? And this ain't your typical military leadership stuff. We might drag some terms and some verbiage out and say something that's military, but we cover leadership in general. So whether that's Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine, Coast Guard, public service, whatever.
Space Force.
Space Force. That's right, Space Force. I seen their.
Got to remember our new Guardians.
VA. I was like, what is that? They got Star Trek up inside of here. What is this? And then they hit me, and I was like, oh shoot, they did start the Space Force. But I was really thinking, like, as I was walking in for my appointment, I'm looking at this flag, and I said, I know every last one of these. I know. What is this one? It's Space Force, and it looks like it could be the Federation. All right. Anyways, man, thank you guys. The next show is using advocacy and inquiry effectively. Hey, it's a great article. Come back. If you're interested in the article or you want to read it before we get to it, hit me up offline or reach out to us offline, and we will get that to you or show you how to get to it. And we look forward to continuing to building and having a better year this year in 2023. Be safe. Take care. We love y'all. Peace in the Middle East. And a ball of hair grease, all that great stuff. Some of those early 2000s, late 99, 90s sayings. Again, this is Coffee, Crepes, Leadership, and Pancakes. We love you guys. Be safe. Enjoy your weekend. Because I feel good. Peace.